Hello everyone. Well, let's wait, say a couple more minutes for people to join in. Also, if you haven't yet checked in, please go and check in over here. Do check in on this link, and then we begin in a quick moment. All right. So, how has your day four been? I'm guessing you're probably seeing me on Global Hack Week Security for the third or fourth time, I guess. I will be taking three more streams, two in continuation with this one, and one Global Hack Week today in GHW with Ritvi, which is tomorrow. Yes, hi Shamari, hi Nisarg. What sessions did you attend today? I remember me and Ashwin yesterday talking about this. There were two hardware sessions, there were a bit of fun games. Did you all get a chance to attend any of these? Oh, mine is the first session for you today. Thank you so much. I hope I make it worth it. It's 9 a.m. here. Where are you? Hi, Tiny Techie. Good morning. Where are you people tuning in from? A lot of people. Okay, US. Nisarg says I watched Kev's recording and second session of Python scripting. That's cool. That's cool. Thank you, Shamari. If I'm pronouncing that right. Also, what does your username mean? Tiny Techie is from Maryland, USA. Cute name. Why Tiny Techie? Why tiny? Oh, nice. Hi, Ahmad. Thank you for tuning in. Okay. So just to give you, let me share my screen quickly. Oh, so Tiny Techie says I'm always the shortest plus smallest person in the group. Oh, that's cute. And you love tech, obviously. Yep, we all do. We all do. That's why we're here. That's why this community is here. Okay, let me quickly add my screen to the stream. Yep, here it is. Oh, by the way, I absolutely love the design and theme of GHW security this time. I mean, this purple, black, all of this color looks really, really cool. Shamari says they be shorter than you. Well, never had such a conversation before. I am the shorter one. No, I'm the shorter one. Yeah, me too. I love purple as well. All right. So today's session will be about building secure web applications with Python, and we'll discuss some best practices and tools. How many of you are Python lovers over here? I know a few of you are from 404's gang, but otherwise, what's your say skill level in Python? Are you beginner, intermediate, or expert? Karthik is so excited to call themselves a Python lover. All right. And given this, what is your experience with, say, securing your Python applications? Have you tried doing that? Yes, Python is indeed one of the best languages. I think Python has been around for 20, 30 years, if I'm not wrong. 30 years approximately, and still going strong. Okay, so Karthik says they're intermediate. Nisarg is more of a JS fan, and then second favorite language is Python. Nisarg is just trying to cover up right now, and that's all right. We like Python community accepts everyone in. Shimari's been working on using the Pangea APIs and integrating those with Python. Lovely. Python works amazing with APIs. Lag 25 says, are we going to be using Flask? Yes, we'll discuss a lot about Flask. Regarding usage, I will not do a lot of coding over here, but I'll just show you a little bit of Flask peek in there. So, yeah, if you're comfortable with Flask, that's all right. But then again, I think Flask is the most basic of the frameworks in Python, web dev frameworks. So if you've done any other framework like Fast API, Sanic, or Django, Flask should be easy to follow along. All right. We also have somebody from Facebook tuning in. Okay, let's move ahead. Let's move ahead. Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Akshita. I am an MLH coach, and I'm also a pod leader in the fellowship program. By the way, if you all did not already get the announcements, we are launching a Web3 track, especially via the Build Hackathon that we are going to organize very soon. And apart from that, the fall announcements of fellowship are also out. Please go and fill in your applications. It's a lovely opportunity to be a fellow. I was a fellow myself, and now as a pod leader, I can totally see the amount of diversity and the amount of hard work that fellows put in, and what an amazing stage it is there. Also, it's paid, so well done about that. Plus, there's no restrictions. Like if you're 18 plus, you're totally eligible to apply. It doesn't matter if you're a student or if you're working. I mean, the fellowship is. I love talking about it. So, apart from that, I'm also full time back in engineer. I finished my graduation, say, 15 days back, and I did my majors in computer science. Karthik says I tried last time but rejected. I got rejected 4 times before I was accepted. So, well, try. Also, by the way, I'm always hanging out in the Discord server. If you plan on applying and if you wanted essays to be reviewed, or if you want me to suggest you some projects and stuff like that, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be very happy to help you out. Any quick tips on what kind of projects would be good? Let's wait for answering these kind of questions till the end of the stream. Let's get going with the agenda for today, and we'll take questions about projects and fellowship probably later in the stream. Does that work? Yes, all the fellowship questions towards the end of the stream. All right, let's move ahead. And okay, so today's presentation, I made it on Canva, and I try to use a lot of security or cool hacking coding pictures, and that kind of messed up with my font. So I had to use this gray backdrop at the back for the font to be visible. But then it's fine, I guess. Let's go ahead with this. It's still readable, right? Okay. So when we talk about secure coding practices and Python applications, the first few things that come into our heads are maybe use built-in libraries, use frameworks for secure coding, implement secure authentication. Let's implement input validation. Let's implement error handling, or regularly update dependencies. How many of you kind of actually pay attention to when you build projects? Do you pay attention to, whether this is secure or not? Or am I just going to deploy this and leave, like, forget about it? This is a small project. Does it even matter? Does anyone, like, make sure that their application is fully secure, that no random XYZ friend of yours comes up and does an SQL attack and they just kind of ruin your database over there for you? Or are we all like chill that it's a small project, doesn't matter? How many of you have worked on bigger projects, if you'd like to tell about that? uh, Lag 25 says blissfully ignorant about it. Same with me. Even I was ignorant about implementing security practices in my Flask projects, and they were basically machine learning projects that I used to deploy with Flask. That's how most people kind of begin learning Flask, from the community that I come from. But yeah, once what happened was my server did face some downtime because of a DDoS attack, and I have absolutely no idea why would somebody do that to uh, you know uh, some xyz app.heroku.com. Why would somebody do that to a website of that kind? But they did, like, or maybe there are bots scraping around, crawling around the internet. So yeah, okay. I make sure that I store my keys and not sharing it in any way. Yes, I realized this very, very late on. Fun fact, during my first internship, I did not know that keys were supposed to be stored in environment variables or in .env files and stuff like that. I simply wrote my code, stored my keys in the main file, and I pushed my code. And the organization administrators got an email that somebody has pushed some key to your to the internet and it's visible for public. I got so much scolding on that day. I hated that internship. Yeah, I've tried basic hashing with Flask applications. Okay, that's cool also, but not much experience with any other secure practices. Okay. And Nisarg says, I just started containerization, both front end and back end. Obviously, containers have changed the game for all of us so much. And yes, since you said you're a JS person, obviously front end does play a role there. All right. Okay, let's quickly go through these secure coding practices. Number one is input validation. Now, can anybody quickly just drop in what do you mean by input validation? What do you think input validation might mean? Karthik said they made a keylogger in Python. Cool project. You might want to share a link over here, or you might want to drop your link in the Global Hack Week chat. I think all of us would love to go and star it or check it out. Yes, back to the question. What do you think input validation means? Just kind of derive the meaning out of the word. It's very, very easy. Do I give you a few minutes to type? All right, let me take this. Okay, so input validation, as the name suggests, it means that we validate all our inputs that we take from end users. So all of this prevents our website from very common vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting, which also commonly known as XSS, and our very famous SQL injection attacks. Now, SQL injection attacks are, yeah. Oh, there is something in the chat. So Mickey says making sure input values meet criteria in your code. Okay, that can be one thing. Nisarg says we get formatted data. Yes, almost there. Aureline says just checking if your input is in correct form. Well, that too. But then again, input validation also means that we ensure that um, there's no random input coming from the user. If we want username and password, we should get username and password and not some bunch of code that the user pastes there. Okay, so maybe you can just put a check that only these characters are allowed. Like in password checkers, what do we have? They tell us to not use special characters like underscore or semicolons or stuff like that. Why? Because these kind of prevent us from cross-site scripting or SQL injection attacks. Now, since I mentioned both of these, can any one of you just write a quick SQL injection in the chat right now? I mean, it was a super fun thing to do when we started learning about security, and we were like, all of us used to feel like hackers trying to do SQL injection attacks on random old websites. A very quick SQL injection attack. If you don't know about it, just drop that also. Let's wait for people to come up with some attacks. Drop in your best guess if you can. Like it hardly matters if you're wrong. Like we're all here to learn. I know SQL, but not SQL attack. Okay, you're going to learn something new and cool today. I hope so. It's not that cool anymore because like SQL attacks are kind of outdated. All right, so let's see something about SQL attacks. Um, Let me share my screen to my. I've only heard of inbound, but I don't know if that's a valid answer. Oh, yes, Karthik is here with the correct answer. Now, Nisarg is following Karthik as well. Select ID from users where username is user and password is pass. Now, what does this mean? Where do we paste this in? Okay, when you have a simple website with the username and password login. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, nice. We have so many people coming up with an answer. SQL injection is when code is inputted to hack your database. And yeah, J13K says select star from users where username is absolutely lovely. This is like this is such a cool thing. Okay, so when you have a username and password dialog box, and suppose you enter your username properly, but you don't know the password, you want to hack into somebody's password. What you do is you go and paste this thing on the password box and hit enter, and magically it logs you in. How does that happen? Now, if you clearly see, this looks like an SQL query. And why specifically an SQL query? Because most of our passwords or most of these small websites, they use simple database connections, and they take your password and they'll go and match a query very similar to this. Let's select all from users where username is what the user entered, and where the password is a certain password that the user entered. But what if where username is equals to none or 1 equals to 1? Now, what does that mean? What will 1 equals to 1 evaluate to? It will evaluate to true. And since there's a or, this will always be true. So this entire query will result in a true. And no matter what kind of query or what kind of SQL injection attack you input here, if it evaluates into true, you are logged in. As simple as that. I'm not sure I have any handy example of a website that still accepts SQL injection attacks because it's very, very common, and almost every website kind of prevents it now. But back when I learned about it, I think in my 11th grade, there were a few websites from across the border that did not have these things, and it was really fun trying to safely hack into them. Yes, yes, correct. You can still find them on small scale websites. If you all come across such websites, drop the link over here and we'll all be really excited to try out some injection attacks. All right. Now let's move to parameterized queries. If you Aurelian is saying all my projects. Yeah, maybe. But now today you know and you'll be able to safeguard them. Okay. Let me highlight this query again. So how do we prevent SQL injection attacks? Now, suppose if you use parameterized queries, which is where we do not use absolute usernames or absolute passwords, we provide them parameters. Okay. Now, let me share my VS Code screen if I can and show you. Share screen. Why am I unable to share? Okay. Will this work? Should work. Okay. Yep. So, if you look at this very small Flask code, okay, I kind of tried to come up with something to show you in the code form. Okay. Now suppose we have this route called app.login. Okay. And there's this login method. What does the user expect? They'll send their username and they'll send the password via a form. Okay. Now, when they do this, we do not have any input validation or sanitization. We're not checking if the username is supposed to be the username or if the password is supposed to be in a particular format. We're not checking if the password has some special characters. Now, if you look at this one, see, these are special characters. These are not allowed in our passwords. But there's no such check over here. So any kind of password we're admitting. Now, this username and password that we're extracting from the form data, we are directly passing into our query. We'll write a query like this: select star from users where username is this and password is this, right? And we'll calculate a result by executing that query on the database. But again, if you use this portion as password, even if you put username as empty, right? If this goes empty and the password goes or 1 equals to 1 equals to 1, what do you think this will evaluate it to? What do you think this query will return, irrespective of what the username is? If the password is set something like this database query will always return true, right? Okay. And then when the result is there, the result will evaluate to true. And if the result is there, we'll say login successful. That's how people get into our stuff. So this query is not parameterized. This is an absolute query, and we are directly placing in our username and password over here. This is dangerous. Let me share my screen again to the slides. All right, back on this. Now, the next is secure session management. How many of you understand what a session is? Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. Did you not see my screen? Oh my god. Wait, I'll present it again. Um, I forgot to add it to the stream. All right, here we go. There's an infinity mirror. I have some problem with my screen sharing. Right, but if you check out this code over here, this is our login route, okay? And we're accepting our username and password, like I said, from the form. And there is absolutely no input validation or sanitization over here. So the username and password will come in irrespective of what the user has entered, right? So the user can enter something like this, and there is no password sanitization. These special characters are not allowed in today's passwords. But we have done nothing, we have done no check like that over here. Then we do not have parameterized queries. What will happen is this is an absolute query. If you put in username as none, like absolutely nothing, I do not pass in a username, and I pass 1 equals to 1 in my password, this will evaluate to true. This enter or sorry, I missed an or. This will evaluate into a true. And what that does is this will result in this entire query or this database query execution to result in a true. And when this is true, you are logged in successfully, right? Very small, very small thing, but causes huge vulnerability problems. I'll share my screen again. All right. Thank you for reminding that though. Okay. Let me add it back to the stream. Okay, let me check what's in the chat. Drop the link of your project so we can have an hands-on experience. I will definitely drop the link of this repository on GitHub, like as soon as the stream ends, and you can check it out. Um, yes. Okay. Sorry for all the we didn't see the code problem. All right. Next, we have secure session management. I mean, if you understand what a session is by any vague definition. So, when I first heard of session, I closely related it to, say, my time period that I'm allowed to browse on a website, right? Okay, Aurelian says cookie management. Very, very close to it. Yes, cookie management is a part of session. Um, any other answers do we have? Okay. A session is created when a user visits a website or logs into a website. Yes, definitely. But what is a session? It is created, but what is it? Waiting for one more answer. Come on, like all of us use sessions. Okay, so like I said, the session, okay, the period of time that user is actively using the site. Oh, that's close. That's close. Aurelian says session is like it automatically has maybe a file containing the login credentials for a while. You are also pretty close. Nisarg says to store user info like login details so they don't have to log in every time. That's one use case of a session. And like a window or door to access resource. Probably. Okay. Let's delve into what a session is. Okay. So when you log in into your say Google accounts, right? A session is created for you. Now, there's a particular time period, say 2 days or 3 days or a week or a fortnight, that you can be logged in into that Google account without having to re-enter your password, right? Say after 15 days, the Gmail prompts you that you have automatically been logged out. Please log in again. Session expired. Now, a session basically means a time frame or a block of time where a user performs certain activity, and all that activity or sequence of interactions with the website is stored, the history is stored. That particular thing, that particular black box is called a session, right? Now, secure session management is important because all of our passwords, all of our cookies, all of our data, our browsing history, everything that we do on the website, all of that is stored in the session. If sessions are not securely managed, we can run into problems. Again, I'll show you an example of how we manage sessions in Flask. Has anybody dealt with sessions before? Oh my god. Nikki has a problem. The platform that I work with in my day job, the sessions are only 23 minutes long. That's really sad. Also, a lot of, I think, online banking websites which we use, if we use them anymore, they have also sessions, and their sessions are, I think, lesser than 23 minutes. They're 10 to 15 minutes. That is to ensure security, that even if you kind of logged in with your PC and you left, your website should automatically be logged out, your session should be cleared. Nobody should be able to access your website if you're not around. Okay. How do you pronounce your name? Zan over. I worked the sessions in Django. Yes, Django and Flask are pretty similar when it comes to implementing sessions. All right, let's move to the next one. Then is password security. All of us know about password security nowadays. We remember passwords on our tips, we use password managers, we know all the rules of securing a password. Do you think saving passwords as a plain text is a good idea? Absolutely not. So, encryption algorithms or hashing algorithms should be used to prevent our passwords from being easily trackable, or like making sure the passwords are strong enough. So, say they should have at least 8 characters or 12 characters for the hashing or the decryption algorithms to prevent them from guessing the passwords. In Flask, there's a very, very famous, I can call you Xander. Okay. I have heard of Xander before. It was an email provider service, or is an email provider service, if I'm not wrong. Let me check. Let me Google this. Xander email. No, I'm wrong. I'm absolutely wrong. It's not an email provider service. I'm so sorry. I got that one wrong. That was something else. D equals to zero. What does D mean? What is D? All right. In Flask, there's a lot of plugins that you can use. Oh right. Okay. Okay. Now I got it. I get it. I get it. You replace the D in the name with zero. The cool Gen Z stuff. All right. Next, we have principle of least privilege. This is a debatable topic because as much as you want your user to have maximum user experience on the website, to be able to do most of the things they can, you also do not want them to be accessing stuff that they should not access. So, suppose the admin console, your user should absolutely not be able to access the user console, sorry, admin console, because if they can do that, then what's the point of having an admin console, right? If every user is has the same amount of privilege, that's not how it works with secure websites. So implementing the least amount of privilege that you can. If a user is supposed to do a certain xyz number of tasks, let them only do the xyz number of tasks and do not give them the routes to open new pages or to access some other resource on a website. So, limiting all of this in the minimum necessary privileges that are required for the user to use your website or perform tasks on it. Yes, exactly. Assigning roles is a very good way to do that. It's also called authorization, right? So, when you authorize users, you kind of assign them roles or levels according to the kind of privilege or kind of access you want to give them, right? So that's one thing we keep in mind. That's why we define different user roles, we defined access types. Then the last one is pretty simple, having regular updates. So, probably if you're using, say, a very, very old version of Bootstrap, and suppose someday somebody finds out a vulnerability in that very old version of Bootstrap, you are not very safe in that case, right? Your website will be very prone to a loophole that can be attacked super easily. But on the other hand, if you keep on updating your packages or your dependencies very, very regularly, they come with all the latest fixes and patches. So they're very less likely to have a loophole in them, and they're very less likely very less likely to cause trouble for you. All right. Now, so much of secure coding practices. Yes, common web application attacks. This picture is yes, I did not find a better, clearer version of this one. So, cross site scripting or XS attacks. Did anyone hear about this before? Does anyone know what cross site scripting is? Has anyone of you tried it before? Waiting for all of you to type in quickly. Nope, nope. Okay, can you guess by the name of it what could it imply? Client side attack done with JavaScript. Yes, where are the JavaScript fans here? Okay, so, Straight Rogue 16 says they've tried it and for educational purposes only. We would love to have a description of what kind of XSS attack you did, and yeah, how did you hear about it? While they type that out, let's discuss more about this XSS. So, I'll give you a very simple example. Suppose a website allows you to upload a file, okay, and then what they do with that file is they Let's say they allow you to upload an mp4 video, okay, and then they compress an mp4 video and give it to you as an mp4 back, but in a compressed form, or say they speed it up for you. So all of these websites are there, and you're allowed to upload files. Now, let's say they did not apply input validation there. They did not check that the user is uploading only mp4 videos, like, or .mp4 files. They are allowing any type of files to come in. What some people could try to do is they'll try to upload batch files. And when batch files are going into processing, okay, suppose mp4 file is going to processing, nothing happens. Good. If a batch file goes into processing, and what if the batch file contains a infinite loop? What will that act as? That will act as a virus, right? It will infect the entire server on the side of the website. So the client in this case has uploaded some or injected some malicious code or some malicious information into the website to hamper the server side activities. This is called cross-site scripting in a very, very simple definition. Now, we already learned about SQL injection attacks, so we'll skip over that quickly. And then we have cross-site request forgery attacks. How many of you have heard about this? Just heard about this, or even tried this? Straight rope 16 if you have tried it. Oh, by the way, fun thing. My last session for Global Hack Week would be on network security with Python, and there I'll be demonstrating all of these in code. So using actual Python Flask code, we'll see how all of these three attacks are possible. There is a challenge this week for XSS. You wanted it. I am here with the solution. Not the solution exactly, but I'm here to explain you. So I hope all of you can kind of now at least try to attempt XSS attacks. Let me check out what the challenge is. What's the name of the challenge? Let me drop the link for everybody. What is the name of the challenge for the? Um, why can I not find it? Okay, that's all right. I'll try finding the challenge and dropping in the link, so all of you can at least have a look at how cross-site scripting kind of works. Okay, can you tell me what the attack is if my own website is being rerouted to a different advertisement website? Will anybody want to answer that? I'll give you like say a couple of minutes. Does anybody want to attempt at answering this question? Oh, by the way, here we have this link. Get started with the secure code game is a challenge. Okay, all right, everybody. We have an XSS game challenge, and you can check it out over here. Straight Rope 16 has put in the link for us. And coming back to J13 case question, um, uh, like question back to you, J13. Did this happen to your own website? Is this like a personal experience, or is this a question you're asking on behalf of somebody or out of curiosity? Oh, it's a friend's website. Okay. Nisarg says it's known as URL redirection. All right. This may be subdomain takeover. There's a lot of cool folks in the chat now. Okay. What does a subdomain takeover mean? I think that domain account got leaked. Yes, probably that. Now, how do we prevent our domain accounts getting leaked, or how do we prevent domain takeovers? One very simple solution: we use good quality domain providers, right? Well known domain providers, and not try to manage things ourselves when we are just starting out or not fully aware of all the vulnerabilities that can come. Xander says someone must have messed with the DNS records. I am 45145B. That's a long name to pronounce, says phishing. All right. For people who do not understand what phishing basically is when a website's domain is actually hidden under the lieu of another popular website or known website to you, and you click on the link and you do not know that you're actually entering your, you know, passwords and all of the data into a malicious website. It's in the lieu or it's in the background of the hidden URL. J13K says, thanks everyone for helping them out. All right, let's move ahead with this one. Okay, now recently we talked about authorization, and here we have authentication and authorization. So, I mean, if you understand the difference between authentication and authorization, both are big words, both end in Asian, both start with auth, but they're two different things. Do we all understand the difference between what authentication and authorization is? Would anybody like to point a very small difference? I am not sure how long this stream was supposed to be. Oh, we have plenty of time right now. Okay. Authentication is verifying a user's identity. That's correct. Straight Rook 16 says one verifies you and one says you have the right to access. Yes, that's a perfect definition. So, like we discussed, we need to have access levels and all various user access levels so that not every user gets access to everything on our server. That's what authorization takes care of. Authentication takes care of whether you are not, you know, do you even belong here? Do you have an account here? Do we identify you as our user? That's what authentication takes care of. Okay, we have more answers coming in. Shamari says an authorization is giving the user access. Okay. Xander says authentication means identifying something, and authorization is giving access. Yes, all of you are correct. User verification authorization, moderators admin's power. Okay, I read that wrong. I think authentication means it is not your website, and authorization means it's your website. Beneath, not exactly. Not that. I think this one is the perfect definition. So what authentication does is it verifies you, it identifies you, it says, okay, you belong to this website, we identify you as our user, you can log in. What authorization does is it gives you access. That okay, if you are a user here, you have the access to uh, kind of perform a certain task, or you have the access to change your username or change your details and stuff like that. All right. Okay. Now, here is a keyword called SSL encryption. How many of you understand what SSL is? Xander says authentication happens before authorization, right? Yes, absolutely. You cannot authorize someone until you authenticate them. If you do not know if the person belongs to you or not, how will you provide them access? Okay, SSL certificates. What does SSL mean? Do not give me the full form of it. Try to guess what SSL might mean, what it might kind of identify. The stream's going good, I guess. People are interactive. I know what it means. Secure sockets layer. What is secure sockets layer? What does secure sockets layer mean? Oh, you don't understand how it works. That's fine. Can you give me an example of where you might have heard of SSL or where do you think SSL is used? Okay. It encrypts and sends data. Okay. And private public keys and stuff. So passwords are protected. Okay. Xander says SSL encrypts the traffics flowing through a network or website. How, like, how does it help? Why does it encrypt the traffic? Why can't we just let it flow like that? Yes, Shamari, you're right. It's a security tech for establishing an encrypted link between a server and a client. Cryptographic protocol that is used for secure communication. Did ChatGPT answer that? Okay. I am 45145B. Please help us with a nickname for you. It's hard to pronounce a name. Okay. In normal mode, whatever we enter goes as plain text. Yes, you are absolutely right. So anyone can intercept it and do malicious stuff. So when you're communicating between the client and the server, and if you're communicating in plain text, an attacker or an adversary can be sitting there and they can tap your data and modify it, inject malicious code into it, and send it over to the client. The client will think the data has come from the server, but it's actually come from the adversary after it being infected, right? That's not what we exactly want. Hence, we use SSL certificates to ensure that our website is not only SSL encrypted, but other people know that this is SSL encrypted, so I can trust this place with my passwords and my data. Okay. SSL allows you, the client, to authenticate the identity. The server also allows server to authenticate. That's a long definition, but okay, that's kind of correct. Oh, he encrypted his name. Yes, that looks like it. Oh my god. Okay, it's actual encryption. This deserves a pin. If you rotate 45145. Oh my god. So this is a 180 degrees rotation. Yes. Okay. Okay. Now that we know your name, we'll call you by it. Yes, that's secure. Nobody can intercept that. See? Okay, so can somebody give me a practical example of how we identify whether a website has SSL or not? How? How do you know whether you can trust a website with your passwords? How do you know where you have to enter passwords or not? Very nice. HTTPS. For websites that do not have this S, which stands for secured, hypertext transfer protocol, but secured, they are most likely to, you know, yes, all of you are right. Okay, yeah, this is a good identifier as well. Lock symbol before the domain URL. If you see, I'm on StreamYard right now and I can see a lock symbol on the domain URL, right? Nisarg is also correct. Log symbol and HTTPS. So any website that does not have HTTPS or just has HTTP, you kind of get a most browsers give you a warning that this is unsafe. Do you still want to proceed, right? So the browsers today are kind of intelligent as well. They avoid you from going to such websites which are not SSL secured. All right. Yes, Xander, but that is very browser specific functionality. Not all browsers have that. HTTP crossed with red line. Again, that is a browser specific functionality. Like my browser does not show HTTP or HTTPS. It just shows that lock symbol until I copy the entire link. Yes, exactly. It depends on the browser. All right, we have learned so much today. Now, the best tools for securing Python web applications. I'm not sure why I wrote that. Yeah, now I'm sure why I wrote that. I reused the same image because I was out of images to use. But let's go with this. OWASP top 10. How many of you have heard about OWASP? I'm pretty sure there's a challenge regarding OWASP in the GHW as well. The slide I want is finally here. Well, alright. So here is OWASP project top 10. You can go check it out. And it's basically a document. It's a document of things that are good to know, things that you should be knowing about the most common top 10 vulnerabilities or most common top 10 attacks. So this entire thing is made for us developers, and it helps and is in understanding how or where are we actually introducing vulnerabilities and where are we most prone to getting affected by all of these. You can check out the link. I've pinned it over here, and it's a very quick document to read, and it will give you a lot of more insights. Yes, there's an OWASP challenge. I used it to review for the XSS challenge. Let me drop the link for the OWASP challenge as well, if I can find it right now. Yes, I found it. It's a beginner's challenge. I think you should be able to solve it. Please do try it and let us know how this goes. It's the OWASP juice shop. Oh my god. It's fun. It's the website is cute. You should definitely go check it out. Alright. Um Next we have SQL Alchemy. For all the Flask and Python people or the Django people, I bet you have used SQL Alchemy at least once. If not, you can admit now, you can confess now. How many of you have used SQL Alchemy? And why have you used that particular library? If you have not used SQL Alchemy, that's also fine. Just let us know about it and we can discuss it in more detail. Xander says I used it once because it was being used from the start of the project by another dev. So that was not a conscious choice. Okay, that's all right. Didn't use it. That's fine. I don't know about its uses. Okay. Can we guess what it might be used for? Since I've mentioned it under security libraries and tools. To connect with SQL database, right? That's one. That's one. To prevent SQL injection attacks. Absolutely. Yes. We use SQL Alchemy to prevent SQL injection attacks. Now, how does that do that? So, on the internals of it, it's an object relational model. Okay. It maps your objects to relations in the database, and it basically prevents your SQL injection attacks. It sanitizes your queries on its own. So, it will not let you pass queries which look like or 1 equals to 1, and that it does on its own in the internals. So just having that, make sure that you do not have to think about explicitly checking for SQL injection attacks. So all of these wrappers kind of help us, and they increase the productivity because we do not have to write extra code thinking, what are the all the edge cases, or what are all the corner cases that somebody could do an SQL injection attack on our username and password form. All right. Next is Flask Security. Has anybody used all of these plugins with Flask? Flask Security, SQL Alchemy, Flask Cookies, Flask Sessions. Anyone heard of Flask Security plugin or extension or library, whatever you'd like to call it? Nobody has? Okay, Xander rarely uses Flask. I get it. Is there a similar thing in Django that you use? Shimari hasn't. I've not really used Flask yet. I'm a data science student. All right. I am curious. Why not? Like when I was trying to study data science and I was building these models and stuff, well, you gotta use libraries to call yourself ML enthusiast or data science enthusiast. So I was in that phase when I was a kid, like not a kid, but in my early college years. So Flask was this is how I got introduced to Flask. I wanted to deploy my models, and everybody knows when you type in how to deploy a machine learning model, the first article or the first at least five articles that come up are Flask articles. That's how I got to learn Flask and also use Flask security. I have had issues getting it to load. I just started with Django. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Shamari, I'm hoping that means you haven't used Flask yet. All of you should definitely give Flask a try. It's very lightweight. If you used Django before, you know the amount of code that it comes up with, the boilerplate that is written in there. Flask comes absolutely clean. You write all your routes, you write all you have the freedom to use your own folder structure. You want to use MVC or DDLs or a mixture of both. So Flask is very open to that. Flask is useful for creating tests and small apps. That's not actually entirely correct. If I remember very correctly, Instagram web for a very long time it functioned on Flask. It was a Flask application. So I'm really sure Flask is not only used for creating small applications. Shamari says they've been using Streamlit for data models. Oh yes, Streamlit is a very popular choice these days as well. And I think the best part about it is that it allows you to share your projects with others via links and invites, and that just makes it 10 times more productive if you want to collaborate on a project. I have used Flask in one of the CV projects to link with website. Drop the link of your projects here, and we'd all love to share some love on it. Okay. Yes, and computer vision projects are also very well paired with Flask because again, Flask allows you so much of independence to work with. Yes, you're correct. You can use it for large scale apps, but then as you try to make it large scale, like Django kind of handles the work for you, it handles the complexities for you. In Flask, you have as much as freedom is provided to write those complexities, it also kind of becomes a burden. You have to write so much of repetitive code, right? And yes, Mickey, it's very simple for starting out. It's a very lightweight framework, and definitely, if you want to learn more about Python, how Python web servers work, Flask is the way to go because you can learn it very quickly. Django has a bit steeper learning curve, right? All right, so coming back to Flask security, So it's basically an extension in Flask. You can do pip install Flask security, and it helps with all of the things like authentication, authorization, password hashing. It gives you all of those features via function and via various modules. You do not have to worry about implementing a single thing related to security when you're building a Flask app, right? Oh wow, we have a project link over here. I just started this app on Streamlit last night. Understanding fraud, Streamlit app. All right, tell us more about this app. What does this do? And all folks in the chat, please go check out their app if it's visible and give them feedback on it. All right, next we have CSRF protection, which is cross-site request forgery protection. So again, Flask provides a lot of libraries, and then Django. Okay, now Flask has to provide external libraries to prevent CSRF attacks, but Django has built-in protection for this because Django obviously is heavy. It comes built-in with all of these features that prevents your routes from getting exposed to such attacks. All right, so there's a bit of trade-off between Flask and Django always, and it's almost always preferable to which one you want to use. Then we have something called content. Or I missed out secure cookies. Somebody was mentioning or talking about cookies before. What are cookies? When we talked about sessions, somebody mentioned cookies, and every time that annoying pop up on our websites, do you want to accept all cookies? Yes or no? Where the yes or no is not even an option. It's almost always a yes. What are cookies? If you don't know what are cookies, can you just kind of relate with what do you think cookies do? What do you think cookies are there for? Why do we say yes to all those cookies? Do they harm us? Do they benefit us? Okay, we're oh, Shamari's project's already got a few feedbacks. That's nice. Vineet says they store data in a browser. Yes, they do. I'm sure all of us have at some point have opened our developer tools to go and view the cookies there. Straight Rogue 16 says cookies are used to track various metrics such as site performance and user interactions with the app or page. Yes, that is correct. The need says for good user experience. Absolutely. Store website info to load it faster. Not really, Nessa. That's something called a cache. We use caches to store website info to make it load faster. Do you think all cookies, Vineet said, they're used for good user experience? Do you think all cookies are good for us? Do you think there can be cookies that might be annoying or that can harm us in any way? Why did we specifically write secure cookies over here? Missed the question. I'll repeat it for you. Don't worry. Okay, so Vineet said cookies are used for good user experience. Okay, and I wanted to ask why did we specially mention here secure cookies? Is there something called insecure cookies? Can cookies harm us? Can they prove annoying to us? Why did we write secure cookies here? What do you think? Mickey has an answer. I suppose there are cookies that track things that we would not like to be tracked and use them for malicious intent. A very, very famous big tech giant does this. Can somebody drop a name hint of this big tech giant who tracks things that we would not like to be tracked and use them for malicious or maybe monetary intent? Ah, yes, we have one. More people for Facebook. Yes, absolutely. Google, Google Ads, Facebook, Meta Ads, all of these things. I love the wordplay. Google, love the wordplay. Okay, let me scroll up a bit. Somebody wrote something. Shimari said that some cookies are good, but other might not be so good if they are tracking us continually. Vineet says, yeah, they can be harmful too in some ways. All right. Oh, Tencent. I did not know that about Tencent though. Well, Tencent is also tracking your data. Please stay safe, everyone. All right. Nobody did answer what is cookies though. It's very similar to the definition of the fundamental cookies that we have. So website cookies aren't that different. Anybody would like to jump in? Just a short phrase would help. Definitely. Yep. Web crawlers that track users on the net. They make use of our cookies. Yep. Okay. Ashish said it's more dangerous than all according to me. Oh, are you talking about Tencent? Is Tencent more dangerous? Or was it Google? Let's not take names on the stream. I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's come back to cookies. Okay, so like our traditional cookies, the ones that we like to eat, they're packed with lots of good stuff. And your, suppose, say, grandma gives you a pack of cookies, and they tell you to take it home and distribute and eat. So similarly, our website also stores cookies, which is this packet of information, which contains all the good stuff. It was initially meant to contain all the good stuff that would help a user to, like Shimari said, I guess. Who said that? Who said that? No, Straight Rock 16 said, when the users get hung up on a page, okay? So cookies are basically responsible for knowing that, okay, a user likes to perform these activities on my website, and I'll make sure that the next time they come they do not have any problem accessing any of these features, right? Ah, chocolate peanut butter cookies are very good. We bet. Vineet says they help websites remember information about our visit. Definitely, that includes a password, our session IDs. What else do can cookies contain? Can anybody help with that? What else have you seen cookies contain? I've seen cookies contain visitor IDs, even latitude and longitude as well, like a location. Any other things apart from these that you have seen or can guess cookies might contain? Cookies can also contain authentication tokens, though if you're not securing them properly, it's very unsafe to put your authentication tokens in cookies. Your login info, yes. Cookies drive relevant advertisements. That's how Google makes money. That's how Google makes money. That's how Meta makes most of their revenue. Access tokens, yes. All right, now this one is a big one. A company I know owns major stake in all American companies and makes addictive games and owns one and only app that's being used by Asian giant peoples, and everything in one app and a lot. All right, we're exposing people over here. Coming back to cookies, cookies store personal customizations made by user. Okay, so suppose you like a dark mode on some website. Maybe the server doesn't want to store all that information, right? Maybe the server doesn't want to store some information that the browser needs to access very quickly, what they'll do is they'll add a preferences of certain things that you like or might not like in the cookies itself. I haven't dug into cookies that much, but authentication is sometimes embedded. They can track your OS and devices. Okay, now I'll tell you. The next time you go on into sign in with Google, when you press that button, make sure to open your developer tools in your browser. And when you click on that button, you can actually go ahead and see there your authentication token, and you can go and see your cookies having that visitor ID or your user ID or however the website defines you or tracks you with your authentication token beside it, right? Okay. They also help to make auth easier, so no need of two-factor authentication. Yes, absolutely. Straight Rope 16 is saying about to do that. Definitely go give it a try. There's much more information stored in cookies than we would like to. And it's always good to know when you look at these websites. Okay. The last one is content security policy. I will assume I think it's good to clear the cache, cookies, and history on a regular basis. Yes, yes, it is. It is definitely that's one practice is recommended. Not only does it clear your browser's load, but it also keeps you safe from any long time creepy visitors or creepy watchers that have been tracking your activity. Right? Cookies are important, so never leak them. Yes. Once a cookie I copied in a usual project made me lose $240, so be careful. We'd love to hear more about this story. Is it possible to store scripts in cookies? Cookies are basically, if I talk in terms of Python, they're basically dictionaries, okay? So, yes, it is possible to store scripts in cookies as well. They can be dangerous. All right, let's move on to the next point, which is content security policy. I will safely assume that all of us are probably hearing about this for the first time, maybe, or if we have heard about this, we're not really sure what it is. Because while preparing for this session, even I heard about this for the first time, and I was like, okay, this is something we need to include. Now, content security policy or CSP is basically a policy where you mitigate the risk of XSS and various injection attacks by controlling the source of the content that the application can load. Now, how do you control the sources of the content that the application can load? Um, like I gave the example of the website that converts your MP4 into compressed videos. How do you control that? Only a certain type of files should be allowed to be uploaded over here. That's how you maintain your server side. On your server, you maintain all these checks. You maintain input validation, right? Then, if you all know, like when you try to install some application on your phones, it says you're not installing it from an authorized source. You're installing it by a third party application. Might be unsafe for you. Now, all of this comes under the content security policy. Their policy requires you to warn of all the possible data sources that could harm you, right? So this is not some measure that you take. This is basically a policy or good practices that are required to again mitigate all these risks, to get rid of any possible attacks that you can face if you're ignorant about these things, right? Okay, now story time. I used my session ID in my project and used some third party tool thinking my account don't have much balance. And then I won prize, but they did not credited that in my account, and I lost hope after 4 months. They sent me my prize, and I'm busy due to exams, and someone stolen that money in my account using that cookie and fooled the site. Oh my god, that's a sad story. What was that third party tool? And did you ever find out who stole your money? Aren't there more regulations in place now for the most part regarding CSP? Yes, there are. There are. The entire long 8 pages of terms and conditions that most applications require us to read and we skip, they contain a huge portion of CSP there. Okay. Okay, story continues, and I looked at it after my exam. Better late than sorry. It's crypto, so we don't know who. Oh my god, you lost $240 in crypto. That must hurt. Yes. Yes, Nisarg, sad life. It was a fresh account created in that platform and they withdrew it. Yes, be safe with your wallets and be safe with your money. And, well, like, see, Ashish was only trying to create a project and win a prize, and they did that, but then eventually, yes, we get a fresh account from the hacker side. It's lovely how we call these forgery people or these cheats hackers, because all they're doing is just making use of this small loopholes, and well, it's a talent if we can call it that way. But we are coming here with Global Hack Week Security just to let you know that these things are possible. Stay safe and implement all of these things in your projects so you don't face things like these. In Hedera Discord, they're warning so much about spammers. Oh god, the extent of spammers these days is as well. Happens, bro, happens. Happens with the best of us. We all make mistakes and we all can fall into these traps. I mean, it was an innocent little project that you made, probably for a hackathon, okay? And who thought that you would lose money out of that? It's unethical, not a talent, in my honest opinion. Right, there's an entire debate about black hat hackers and white hat hackers, and honestly, it kind of depends on person to person. What's unethical for somebody might be the, you might be the sole bread earner of your family. I'll not comment on that because obviously it's not really good to make money out of weaknesses that we explore in the system. But if you can explore such weaknesses and you try to fix them, that's what makes you a good person. Yes, see, all the people who said they never used security in their mini projects, please take a lesson from this incident. And yes, companies are providing bug bounty to avoid black hat hackers. Companies are providing money to people who are talented and who can find out these loopholes in their softwares or in their websites to report it to them, to provide a solution, and prevent some malicious person to break into their system, right? And these rewards can go up to, I think the max reward I heard was of $30 million, and they can start anywhere from $5 to $10. So it's obviously a good money making sport as well, but then requires so much effort and consistency. Only the best people kind of get to the $30 million point. But yeah, all right, let's see what we have. Okay, now we are on to our questions. I did plan on showing you a few properly, secure Flask apps. I have it in a file, okay, I have it pre-written, but what I'll do instead is I'll upload this to GitHub and I'll drop the link in the Discord chat, and you all can check it out later. All of these apps run flawlessly and you can clearly see the difference. I'll upload, so in the folder, there'll be a single app, the one that I showed you over here, which was insecure, which had possible SQL injection attacks, right? And then I'll show you apps which did not have SQL injection attacks. I'll also, yeah, and probably provide inline comments. So anytime you have any issues, you can directly reach out to me. Why did you write this code over here? How does Flask handle this? Or why is this happening here? Anyone knows how to host Flask Django app in via cPanel. Like we discussed earlier, unless you are really, really good with cPanel and DevOps and information security handling on that end, please use very good host providers, which kind of take off the burden of your shoulders for most security related things. And yes. Oh, by the way, a new deployment platform that I recently used and I found really cool was Railway. How many people have heard about Railway? I think this is great for deploying Node.js and Flask apps. It's lovely, the UI is lovely, the experience is lovely. It is absolutely smooth to use and very, very low learning curve. Yes, you heard about Railway. Good. All right. Yeah. Now we're open to questions, and you can keep the questions coming in. As soon as I get done with my, I'll be having a today in Global Hack Week stream with Ritvi in about say 2 hours from now, and let's once I'm done with that, I'll push my code to GitHub. And I'll drop the link in the GSW chat on Discord, and we're gonna have a look at how we can implement in code what we talked about in this presentation over here. And if you have any questions there as well, you can shoot them in. All right. I used Heroku once. I used to love Heroku. I was an avid user of Heroku. I had 3 Heroku accounts, but since they just stopped their free tier, it kind of became difficult to continue using it. I have a friend using cPanel. I have not had good experience with it. I actually, when I started with my tech journey, initially I was working with a group of WordPress developers, and not only WordPress, but I think Hostinger was the site that they used to manage their databases connections and everything on the back end. And being that young, I did not really understand what was going on. But cPanel itself was a scary place to be in. It was so complicated. So from that day onwards, I decided to just let these deployment websites like Railway, or I think there's one called Flyer. All of these handle the stuff for you, and you can sit back and just be at peace. You've not heard about Railway? Please do check it out. It's absolutely lovely. How much security protocols are necessary for an average user? I mean, is there too much security protocols to put into place for an average user? What do you mean by average user? What kind of application are you targeting? Is this about your small projects? Describe a little bit more and we can discuss. Heroku to run Telegram bots. Yes, that was the pre-COVID or the during COVID era. We all were making Telegram bots. You had a nice username. Who is this for? Okay. This is some conversation going in. Yes, it depends on case and what data we are dealing with. Just for someone who uses the internet, not for someone who's making applications. Okay, so for someone who's using the internet, they just need to be aware about how what are the different kinds in which they can be fooled, or in which people are ready to steal their data. Like now we know of the we need to check out the log symbol. We need to know if it's HTTPS or HTTP, right? That's one basic thing. Next, we should know about phishing. You should, I'm not saying you should learn your websites by heart, the URL of websites, but by this time, being an avid internet user, I know most URLs by heart, right? So whenever something fishy comes up, I can immediately detect it. And also, just knowing that there's a certain pattern to phishing websites is pretty easy for you to then gauge that okay, this might not be the real website. Then again, in this term, I think Google's SEO works really well, because if you type Amazon and if you want to go to the original Amazon website, Google's SEO will put it up on the top for you. and write like ad or sponsored over there. So you know that this is the original website, because phishing websites cannot pay Google so much to make it, top out their SEO. Okay, for Flask, does it need to be in a VNV to load virtual environment? Not necessarily, absolutely not. I prefer using Anaconda or Miniconda, but it does not need to be in a virtual environment. It can run on your base Python installation as well. It is recommended, however, for every project you do use environments, because it does not mess up with your base installation, right? Because you have to install so many packages for every project, so it's recommended to keep them separate. Everyone is ready to steal data. Absolutely true. One might think they don't own much, but those small things accumulated become big things for them. Right. Absolutely right. Not only money, data is valuable. So data is money today. Okay, another story time. A children's toy has camera in the database and got completely hacked or visible to public. That is so sad. Like, we should keep the children out of it at least, but no. Before getting system to recognize Flask is installed. Okay, if you face that error again, just drop me a DM or tag me in the Discord chat. Okay. The weak database that we were talking about in the children's toy has the parents' info, addresses, and a lot more stuff. Now imagine if somebody wants to break into your house and a child has this toy which stores your address and probably also stores the time in which most of these people are active or inactive. It gets super easy to break into your house. Absolutely. I love that the chat is so much aware about uh, how much data we lose or we kind of trade when we visit websites or we browse the internet. Any suggestions on how to learn Flask? I want to. I think picking up a YouTube tutorial or a free code camps tutorial on Flask is the best way to go about it. I think Tech with Tim, there's a channel called Tech with Tim. They are they're great. Like, they explain Flask so beautifully. And then once you're done with the basics, once you're done with everything you have to, when you have the surface knowledge of the entire thing, then you can dive in deeper to things. Okay, then you can learn more about blueprints. How do you define routes? How do you customize routes? How do you lay out your MVC structure that Django already provides you? Or how do you say write more Pythonic code and introduce Flask in Jinja templates, right? So Flask just gets much more interesting as you proceed. And because it's so lightweight and it's so simple to write and learn, there's very less learning curve. You just need to know Python. Absolutely, that's the only thing for Flask. But for Django, you need to do an entire, like, at least I think it took me 2 or 3 weeks to get a hold of Django, what it is, what are the conventions I need to follow. Flask does not ask you for all that. Okay. Oh, companies ask for credit card details even when they're not charging for the service. That's a big red flag, yes. I like Tech with Tim. Yes, their videos are absolutely to the point, and I love watching them on 1.5x because that's the most optimal speed to not only wrap my head around quickly but also to finish off the course. Thank you so much. It'll be an honor to me if you want to learn Flask because of this session. Yes. Okay. All the fellowship questions that were there in the beginning, we can take them now if we do not have any more Python related or Flask related security questions. Fun fact, I watched dramas in 3-4x speed. You've gotten something seriously wrong with you there. Yes, that's a good practice. That's a good practice. See, you're already halfway into learning how to be more secure. All right, waiting for more questions. Let me uh, pull up a banner. I hope everybody checked in on the link. If not, I'll drop it yet again. Please go check in. All right. Okay, I guess then we have no more questions. If there are questions, I'll wait for just last 1 minute in case you're typing it out and you're taking time to type. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you for bearing with me. And I'll have another stream with Ritvi today for today in Global Hack Week. Then I'll have another stream tomorrow, uh, and that will be on database security with Python. Again, you'd like to come in there. Then day after tomorrow, I'll have a stream on network security in Python, which will talk. We'll check out real life like small examples on how to do SQL injections. We'll create a website where we can perform SQL injections, and I'll probably deploy it and share it with all of you, so you can play around with it as well. And we'll see how we can do XSS attacks. Okay, now we have questions. I want to apply for fellowship, but I want to know how the project level should be like, complex or what. So the project regarding MLH, I think the best description of how the project should be is given in the application itself. When you open the application form and you reach the project section, it's clearly defined there what kind of projects do they prefer. And if you want, you can DM me on Discord again. I can share the project that I submitted. It was okay. So we mostly want an almost original idea. We do not want a tutorial project, okay, because we realize tutorial projects do not take a lot of effort to build, and we want to see that you put effort for this. And apart from that, your code should be well structured, follow basic coding norms or formatting guidelines and stuff like that. Then all of the code should not be in one file. All of the code should not be in singular files. You should have folders and modules and stuff like that divided. Apart from that, simply making a front end application wouldn't really help. Simply making a Jupyter notebook, okay, wouldn't really help, because there's all of these things are not actually called a project. So you got to, if you're making just front end and you do not want to learn back end, try making use of APIs and stuff to get your work done, or try using backend as a service platforms like Firebase or AppWrite to get stuff done, right? In one of my courses last semester, we discussed security protocols so much I was getting twitchy. Ah, nice. I made very small hacks for hackathons by MLH, but not bigger ones. Time that you do. How do I apply for MLH coach? You go to mlh.io/careers and you can find careers. Oops, sorry, career. No, no S. And I just messed it up. It's careers.mlh.io. Let me drop the link here. Right, you can see there coach event representatives, and there's the application link there. Next is what's the requirement for a project to be considered good for fellowship and pass the bar level. I just described all of it. I have many projects with MERN stack with front end and back end working and having good number of commits also. Oh, good that you mentioned commits. Now since it's an open source project, it should be publicly visible. Once in my fellowship application, I made a mistake and got blatantly rejected because um, I submitted a private repo. I absolutely forgot to make it public. And obviously, if they cannot access the repo, they cannot judge your code. Secondly, your commit history, your Git history should be good. It should not have vague commit messages like uh, commit one, commit two. Your commit should be meaningful, okay? Because the reviewers who review your code go to your commit history and check it once. Also, you should have a proper README, you should have a license, and make sure your project looks like an open source repository, like a good maintained project. Also, if it's deployed, bonus points for that. If it's deployed and there's a link that you have provided in the about section of the repo, bonus points for that. We love to see all those. Ryan said that they're not recruiting for coaches right now. If I remember correctly, I think that there's some truth to that, but I am not the person to answer this question exactly. What about functionalities or any count should we use? Can you describe this question in more detail? I kind of lost track. You won some prizes in those hackathons. If I remember, recently MLH, I think last year MLH kind of started this fast track prizes for hackathon winners, where the teams who won the hackathon, they were given a fast track interview for the fellowship, but that's stopped for now. So I'm not sure if you did win a fast track interview or not. But if your hackathon project won the hackathon, that does not necessarily mean that it is good code quality. So yeah, obviously it had some use case and it was an original project. That is why it won. But before submitting it, make sure that you clean the code, you distribute the code fairly equally, and just maintain it really well. Once you do that, I think you should be good to go. You have the fast track pass. Is it still valid though? Why did you not use those? I think the fellowship projects need to be much better than the hackathon projects. Yes, in terms of maintainability, code readability, because in hackathons you're just coding very fast, right? And when you're coding very fast, you're not really coding the best thing that you can. So while the ideas can still remain, the ideas are very, very good enough for submitting to fellowship. The code quality and the project quality deteriorates a little bit because of the fast-paced environment in a hackathon. If I have a fast track, can I still use it for later? This is something you'll need to create a ticket for, and I think somebody from the full timers MLH team would be able to answer this best. Scared if my projects are good for that and not so safe future. That's called imposter syndrome, and we do not let that creep up in the MLH community. Everything is good enough until you do not apply for it, right? Please go ahead and apply. Yes, we won some hackathons with the project that weren't fully functional. Yes, absolutely. That's what I mean. When you are coding in a fast environment, your code does not have the absolute best quality or does not represent the best of your coding abilities. It should contain a lot of functions or it should be basic functions. Now, functions is not exactly what modularity is. So, suppose if you're working with databases, right? And when you're working with databases, you should know that databases need to have models created, user models or object models or whatever. So, in a hackathon project, we usually avoid these things and we kind of fast track the process. Again, in a in a proper well written project, you need to ensure that your database layer or your network layer is separate and it's not directly embedded within your front end layer. So front end layer is interacting with the back end layer which contains all of those things. If there's something like this that's involved in your project, in hackathons what we do is we make database calls directly from inside the front end. Any tech needs to be integrated. I think I answered this question as well. No worries. Ah, you're late, Tintin, you're late. All right, I think that was all that we had for today. Let's wrap up and see you tomorrow, See you tomorrow for database security in Python. And see you day after tomorrow for network security in Python. Let me know if you're joining and see you soon. Just to answer your final question, I don't think I am going to hack the fall meetups, but I will be going for PyDelhi conference in PyCon India if you want to meet me there. Bye bye, everyone.